Millions of Americans watch every night to see Bret Baier, the most significant news of the day from behind the desk of the Fox News host. Few people know how much it hurts them personally. This experienced journalist has done for almost 20 years. A son was born with a heart the size of a walnut pumping blood the incorrect manner. 5 procedures on the heart before he turned 13. An accident in a car, Montana, that took away the whole family, stuck upside down in a freezing ditch. The untimely death of the father who formed all that Bret did. And maybe leaked text hurts the most. Messages that would break his carefully developed reputation as one of the most fair-minded reporters on TV. This is the account of a man who spent his communicating painful realities to the people of America for his whole life, only to confront realities in his own existence that no school of journalism could have taught him. For the year 2007 should have been. Bret Baier has had nothing but success. Fox News had just dubbed him the network's White House correspondent, a high-profile job covering the Bush administration government. The path of his career aimed straight up. But when Bret was reaching the top of his field, he'd labored for years to get. His own world was going to fall apart at a hospital room for delivery. Amy Baier had a baby. That year, they had their first son, a baby they called Paul. The delivery itself went without any problems. No problems, no warning indications, just a healthy baby again. It looked like they were entering the world. But one of the nurses came to see the baby soon after birth. Seen anything that worried them? The baby looked wan, his complexion wasn't quite right. That's right. What happened next was every parent's nightmare happening in real time. Medical tests showed a terrible diagnosis. Paul was born with 5 cardiac abnormalities that are present at birth. His little heart, which was only as big as a walnut, was sending blood the wrong way through his body. The flaws were bad enough that doctors told parents what they didn't want to hear. Their baby boy would need cardiac surgery right away. There was a very serious chance that Paul might not make it home with his moms and dads. Amy and Bret were both Catholics, raised with a strong religion, yet nothing gets you ready to witness your baby son was wheeled into the surgery room. The pair relied a lot on prayer during those scary initial days. Bret would subsequently explain what he was thinking throughout this moment, showing that he thought that a God loved Paul and had a bigger plan for him, and for their family too. But back then, in such moments, trust and terror were both present. Paul had his first open heart surgery when he was a baby. Surgery on his heart when he was a baby. The treatment worked. However, it was the start of a long medical journey that would define the Baiers family for many years to come. In the years that followed, Paul would have to deal with 4 more open surgery on the heart. Between the big procedures included 10 angioplasties, medical procedures meant to keep his damaged cardiovascular system working. Every operation had risks that could kill you. Every recovery, every period has its own problems. The Baiers learned how to deal with stay alive through all the hospital stays. They made a family, saying that they would during the darkest times. We're one more day until Paul comes home. It became their anchor, a means to keep track of progress. When the path ahead looked impossibly long, even when home seemed far away, they could see the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how far it might be. In 2014, 7 years into their adventure with Paul's, Bret made the choice, because of his heart problems, to tell the world their tale. He wrote a memoir called Special Heart with the subtitle A Journey of Faith, Hope, Bravery, and Love. The book kept track of every scary moment of Paul's medical journey, which gives readers an honest look at what families confronting congenital heart disease persevere. Bret wrote honestly about the stress Paul's health put a strain on his marriage to Amy, the worries that kept him up at night, and the faith that kept them going through the hardest times. The book served 2 purposes. It assisted other family dealing with the same diagnosis. It made them feel less alone, but it also told all money goes to congenital heart disease research on diseases. The Baiers had found out that over 1% of all births in the US, congenital problems are a part of heart defects, yet people still knew about them. Not high. Bret used his platform to make a difference. Bret got important emotional support from an unusual source. Brit Hume, the famous Fox News anchor, was replaced on Special Report and had his own family tragedy when his grown son killed himself. Hume's sadness and terror were grasped in ways that some people couldn't. He told him what to do. Bret, near the beginning of Paul's health crisis, giving a different point of view that turned out to be really useful. Things will get better. Hume said to him, "You have to have faith in God and put it in God's hands," the physicians said. Paul got bigger, and the purchasers worked hard to keep everything normal. When they had their second son, they became parents when Daniel was born in 2010, aware of making sure both guys felt loved and supported the same. There was always a chance that Daniel would feel not getting enough attention, concentrated on the health of his older brother. However, the brothers grew very close, and Paul, no matter what, was set on living a normal life as possible. But the family's problems were not over yet. The scariest part was still to come. The Baier family went on vacation to Montana in 2019, was supposed to be exactly what they required. An opportunity to go skiing, take a gulp of alpine air, and then don't worry about monitoring your heart and visits to the hospital. Paul's health had been rather stable. The family they believed they could finally relax. The vacation to the ski resort was great. The boys had fun on the slopes. Amy and Bret received some much-needed time to relax. As the vacation came to an end, the family got into their car for the drive to the airport. They were going home with nice memories, already making plans for their next family trip. No one could have guessed what would happen. What would happen next on that road in Montana? The car hit a patch of ice. Bret lost control. Before anyone could properly understand what was going on, they ran into a truck. The collision caused their SUV going off the road. The car toppled over and landed completely, flipped over in a ditch at the side of the road. There was simply silence for a moment and the sound of metal creaking. Then came the understanding that they were all still alive. A driver who was passing by saw the crash and then stopped right away to help. The kind person helped Bret and Amy to get all four family members out from the broken-down car. In case of emergency, responders got there and quickly moved everyone. Visit the nearest hospital for an assessment. For a family that already knows each other well with hospital rooms and medical tests, the irony of the situation wasn't lost. They had come to Montana to get away from medical problems only to end up back in the hospital. The assessment showed that luck was quite good. Bret got a concussion. One family needed 14 stitches on the chin. Another person had a tooth that was jostled, would need to see a dentist. A sprain. The list of injuries ended with an ankle. No one got hurt, which is amazing. Trauma that could kill you. They were, as Bret would later say, that it banged up, but still alive. Bret made a public message honoring those who helped first and the kind person who had stopped to help, but it was his own thoughts shared on social media that showed how much the accident affected him. He sent a tweet that looked like it summarized what the Baier family said had learned from years of medical crises and close calls. Don't take nothing for granted. He wrote, every day is a gift and family is all of it. It's always good to remember before something happens to you. For you. The event was simply another reminder of how fragile life is. Another reminder of how fragile life is, something the purchasers already knew better than most. But they didn't have much time to deal with the trauma. Only a few months. Bret's phone would ring again later in 2020, with news that might change things. A certain kind of agony. Bret's dad had been diagnosed with cancer. The sickness suddenly got worse. Within a few months of Bret got news of the diagnosis, the end was near. He went to be with his father and the whole family came together for his death. Bret later said thankful that his father didn't have to go through pain long, and everyone who loved him got to say farewell. Bret was hurt by the loss. More difficult than he thought. He talked about his connection with his father in an interview with MarketWatch 3 years before. It said how deeply his father had formed his labor ethic. From the teenage landscaping, the way Bret ran his business, to the manner he being a news anchor, how he did his work, father's influence went through everything. The lessons of working hard, honesty, and hard work came immediately from seeing his father do those things values every day. The online community gave a lot of help when Bret told everyone that his father had died. Co-workers, viewers, and other journalists filled up his social media with words of love and support. But no amount of help could fill the void that losing the man who had been important to who Bret became. As Bret grieved about his father and kept taking care of Paul's ongoing health issues, he had no notion that his work life was poised to blow up in a scandal that would put all he'd worked for at danger. The aftermath of the 2020 presidential election caused a lot of problems all across the media and politics in the US. Donald Trump wouldn't admit that Joe had won, Biden, saying that there was a lot of fraud in the election cheating. A lot of Republicans said the same thing. Statements made by some Republicans saying over and over that the election was stolen through voting devices that had been changed and vote counts that were messed up. The accusations specifically went after one corporation. Dominion Voting Systems made computerized voting machines used all over the whole country. In the weeks after the election, the corporation became the center of more and more outrageous claims of fraud. Conservative media figures said the devices made by Dominion had been set up to change votes from Trump to Biden, that there was no proof for the charges, yet they spread quickly through right-wing news outlets circles, and Fox News, where Bret works, became one of the loudest amplifiers of these claims. Several Fox News hosts often promoted baseless remarks concerning Dominion's tools. Every night, hosts and anchors implied that the firm had something to do with it in taking the election away from Trump. The network's audience, which was mostly pro-Trump, responded with enthusiasm to these stories. But Dominion wasn't letting the accusations stand not challenged. The business made a huge defamation claim. Fox News was sued for $1.6 billion in damages. Dominion said that network of purposely ruining its reputation by making misleading assertions that its executives knew were not true. The litigation led to a lot of discovery. Bret found himself in the middle of proceedings, questioned and looked into as part of the case. Fox News personalities have to give up their texts. People were called to testify. Inside communications were looked at closely, and what came out was a terrible picture. A picture of how the network worked during the vote. For Bret, the tragedy of the Dominion situation went outside of the litigation itself. As Fox News moved further to the right after Bret found himself after Trump's loss becoming more and more alone in the workplace. He had made his career on reported facts in a measured way. He'd gained respect from all sides of the political spectrum for being fair. Fairness earned him respect from all sides. But now he observed as his network left those principles in favor of maintaining its joyful audience. Bret made a choice that showed what was most important to him. He pitched a special episode that would look at and disprove in a systematic way the suspicions of electoral fraud that are spreading through right-wing news outlets. The special would show Fox News taking issues seriously while still putting facts ahead of sentiments. It would be a time of journalistic integrity, evidence that the network could combine servicing its audience with serving the truth. Bret sent in a proposal and waited for a reply. He is still waiting. The special was never made. No one ever answered his pitch. As the Dominion case went on, Fox News tried to keep internal discussions private, not public. But in the end, some of those disclosed private texts to the press. The Daily Beast got SMS messages between Bret and Tucker Carlson, one of the network's biggest stars. What those scriptures showed would influence how many folks would always think of Bret Baier. The texts showed Bret and Tucker talking about how Fox News makes decisions surrounds calling the results of an election. The network was getting a lot of bad press from Trump fans who are mad at Biden was winning states. The texts showed that Bret admitted the network's Biden's primary fan base wasn't thrilled with him, wanted assurances that he would be successful. Even worse, Bret wrote that he was directly pushing network decision-makers to slow down their election calls. In one communication, he said he would push them to take their time and thought they would slowly walk and call Biden for Nevada. The texts showed foretelling. Fox News did become the latest big network to officially call the election for Joe Biden, who is long after other news outlets have had made the call. Before the texts, Bret had mostly stayed away from leaking people guessing on why he did it while the election of 2020. People think of him as an fair-minded journalist had kept him safe, avoiding the harshest of the criticism aimed upon at Fox News. But the messages were about a huge blow to that carefully image that was made. There was a documentary here proof that Bret had let political factors that affect evaluation of the news. The man who seemed to have built his career on being fair lowered his own standards to please a crowd that was outraged. For reporters, not many allegations hurt more than the allegation that politics has gotten in the way of overrule facts. The texts that got out said just that. Fox in the end News resolved the Dominion case for $787.50 million, which is one of the biggest defamation settlements that have happened in the history of American media. The network sent out a statement admitting that some statements about Dominion had lied, but the damage undermining the integrity of Fox News and Bret's couldn't fix their own reputation with a check for the settlement. The question of what Bret had been ready to compromise in the sake of party politics would pursue him, but even as his work life fell apart, his personal life kept taking all of his strength, every ounce of strength he had left. Even though the professional chaos around the Dominion scandal and the leaked texts, the Baiers never forgot what really mattered. Paul's fight with his cardiac problem didn't go away, and the family's goal is to aid others who are comparable problems pushed them onward. Even though there was a lot of talk about it, the Baiers had become Bret's career important people in the field of pediatrics, the cardiology community. They set up themselves as important voices in the Foundation for Children's National Hospital located in Washington, D.C., where Paul had got much of his care. Bret used his public platform to raise awareness and money, which helped to make more than $1 million for the hospital through different events for charity and raising money projects. Amy became a member of the foundation's board and playing a big part in shaping the things that are most important to the group. The pair made their biggest financial commitment yet in 2023, the biggest financial contribution so far. They gave Children's $1 million. National Hospital just to set up the Baier family congenital program for research on heart disease. The program's main goal is to improve treatment choices for the illness that is affecting around 1% of all births in the United States. For the Baiers, it was a way to change the suffering in their family into purpose, making sure that future families might face better results than they did. Paul, on the other hand, kept going against expectations. Even if he is still having medical problems, he would not let his condition determine his limits. He joined the varsity golf team at his high school team and spending hours on the course getting his swing just right. He also played varsity tennis, which pushed his physique in ways that would have seemed impossible because of his medical background. The Baiers put forth a lot of effort to make sure both Paul and his younger brother Daniel sensed loved and supported in the same way. Aware of not letting Paul's health concerns get in the way of Daniel's own journey through overpower Daniel's personal trek through teenage years. Then May 2024 came, and a discovery that brought back memories for everyone how dangerous Paul's predicament was stayed. A regular chest x-ray, kind Paul had done dozens of times before, showed something that made the whole medical team shiver. Doctors found a life-threatening aneurysm close to Paul's heart. The 16-year-old had shown no signs at all. Had the aneurysm gone if it hadn't been found, it may have burst at any time, virtually probably killing him. Bret said the discovery was divine intervention, and it's hard to argue with his reading. The chances of getting an asymptomatic aneurysm during a routine screening almost miraculous. Paul had his 5th open heart surgery to fix the aneurysm. The operation, as hard and dangerous as any he had gone through, and it worked. Paul was after the procedure for 5 days, sent home to complete his recuperation at home. During their journey, the Baiers stayed true to their promise of openness about what they've been through. They knew that telling their tale would helped other families who were going through the same thing. Diagnosis makes you feel less alone. Bret used his job at Fox News to do interviews medical professionals concerning congenital heart sickness, teaching people about warning signs, indicators, and why it's important to get help early. Checking. He showcased other families dealing with a diagnosis of CAAHD, offering them a way for them to tell their own stories of survival and fighting. The message the Baiers always told other people about families dealing with the same kinds of problems on hope and point of view. Things may seem very difficult right now. They said there is cause to think things will get better. Have faith in the doctors. Lean on your religion, if you have any. Hold on tight to your family. Take everything one day at a time. Because you don't know what will happen tomorrow, but it isn't set in stone either. Bret Baier is still anchoring today, delivering a special report every night, news to millions of people who watch Fox News. Although he has changed a lot at his core since young journalist with big dreams who joined the network in 1998, the years of medical crisis and personal losses and professional disagreements changed how he thinks about what things that are important. Paul is currently getting closer to adulthood, needs continued heart care for the rest of his life. His physicians can't say for sure what the future will holds. There will probably be more further surgeries, possibly more procedures. The 2024 aneurysm scare showed that there are still ways that danger can get to you. Always be expected. But Paul has made it to 16 years old. did well despite his illness and established a life full of sports, friends, and usual things that happen to teens. That's more than the Baiers expected. Daring to hope for during those scary the first few days in the hospital. Bret now talks a lot about how important it is to thankfulness, about being grateful for whatever you have at all times every single day. The setbacks in their careers, even though they hurt and were unpleasant, they are pale in almost losing his son time and over again over the years. The leaked texts hurt his reputation, but the son was still alive. The the scandal hurt Fox News, but his family lived through an automobile crash that may have murdered them all. Bret's point of view learned affects everything about how you deal with both success and failure. The vehicle crash that turned their upside-down car in Montana functioned as another harsh reminder of how fast things can change at any time. One second you're heading to the airport while thinking about your everyday existence. The next second you're hanging upside down in a ditch and thinking if everyone is okay. You can't control when there is ice on the road. You can't control when a baby is born with heart defects, flaws. You can't choose when text messages get out or when your dad got cancer. But you can decide how you will reply. You have the option thankfulness instead of anger. You can pick purpose above hopelessness. For a guy who spent years writing about other people's tragedies and triumphs, the good and bad things that happen to people, looking at political successes and losses, documenting the rise and fall of public numbers, Bret Baier has found out that he doesn't tell his best narrative from the news desk. It's the one he lives every day when the cameras are off, and he goes home to a family that's been through more than most people can picture. You may hear it in the sound of Paul's heart is still beating powerfully. After having 5 heart operations, it's shown in the friendship between two brothers who have learned that medical problems don't make a childhood. It's here now, in every thankful breath the family takes, knowing how close they've come to losing everything again and over again. There will be less professional disagreements. The Dominion scandal will turn into a little part of the history of cable news. The people will forget about leaked texts as fresh ones come out. Controversies come up. But Paul's heart will keep beating, and the family of the Baier will keep waking up each day and making a choice, choosing purpose over fear and appreciation over being paralyzed and deciding to believe that even the roughest trips can take you somewhere important if you don't want to let go of hope.